And good morning again, everyone. Peter Boyles in for George on a Wednesday morning, October the 18th, 2023, 710 KNUS, 710 KNUS Weather Center weather. It's a beauty, 74 the high, 78 Thursday and Friday, 82. Normally, and we don't, it's not a word we use normally, but this Saturday I will not be there. I have a morning, we need some family things to do. So I think it might be Jeff Hunt. I'm not sure, who I listened to a little bit yesterday going to the gym. But there's the lineup. 303-696-1971 is the phone number. And I put a worksheet together. And one of I think the most important questions I'm running around in my head is this the America that you grew up in? One umbrella question, but in terms of where the focus of the world is right now, into Middle East. So I wrote this on my worksheet. Why no ground invasion? Remember, I was doing a radio show on Saturday morning, and out of a lot of it came directly out of Israel, but they said the ground invasion is imminent. And all the Fox guys and CNN and everybody had reporters, and they were with the armor units that were poised to begin the invasion. So, number one, why no ground invasion? Number two, the Saudi prince snubs the U.S. Secretary of State by making him wait hours for a meeting before totally postponing it. Mohammed bin Salman, who, again, back to the 9/11 Commission reports and all the things that have been uncovered, what was the involvement of the royal family? But Mohammed bin Salman kept Antony Blinken waiting for hours for a meeting and then did not show up at all. And this is the Secretary of State, and he's trying to persuade, allegedly, from the mission statement, the Saudi ruler to condemn Hamas. And Arab countries have universally criticized Israel. And so here comes the Saudi crown prince, and not only does he make the American Secretary of State wait, and then he snubs him, says cancels. Joe Biden, the cancellation again, U.S. President Joe Biden cancels his planned trip to Jordan. In fact, today, after the Jordanians first to cancel Joe Biden. Why? Why no, right? U.S. President Joe Biden, which we're going to go through the next, listen to this. Joe Biden cancels his planned trip to Jordan on Wednesday after the Jordanians, and I was telling Billy, we're talking about it before the show, remember, they're Hashemites, and that's important to remember that as well. The Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. But that Biden was set to attend, this is the Biden people had expected to meet the Arab leaders and have this solidarity with Israel, and Jordan cancels the summit that it was to host with Joe Biden and Egyptian and Palestinian leaders to discuss a solution, if you would, in Gaza. And no, they have the power now. The last one, and we're going to play the cut, is amazing. It's called The Other Team. Now, this is the part of it that Bill and I were talking about. Joe Biden, Billy, where's the ink on this? One of us has the ink. Maybe I do, maybe. But Joe Biden, and it is amazing, he uses the term the other team. So this is probably on me someplace in the stack, right? I will find it. Yeah, see if you can find it. But I want you to play it. And I heard this last night, and I was stunned. Why does Joe Biden, when it comes down to this horribleness of the hospital in Gaza, and Joe comes out and says the other team? 303-696-1971. I got so much paper in front of me. Billy, why don't we just play the cut? This is the president.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things.
You got a take on that? 303-696-1971, the other team. And look at the treatment afforded Joe Biden in the ME, in the Middle East. Biden had been scheduled to visit Jordan after a stop in Israel, but the meetings there, the Arab leaders were called off. He made those remarks. And again, I don't, is that just Joe being Joe? In other words, is that the old guy that we all know and love, Joe Biden, that just these things come out of his mouth? Or is he playing to his Democrat constituents that are really on the far left who have condemned the state of Israel? His thinking, his speech patterns. So Biden spoke of the need to find a way of encouraging the life-saving capacities, and goes on and on from there. But he also talked about, and again, comes to this weird minute, and he's, one more time, Bill, just so it can, if you haven't heard it before, this took place yesterday. And again, the whole time, his minions are being snubbed in the Middle East. The Jordanians-Palestinian summit with the Egyptians they cancel. And then Joe, in some kind of a little, I don't know what the feeling is about this, but then Biden canceled his planned trip. Oh, really? Remember, it's like, who broke the window? Do you get into that, Bill, when you think about that? And it's like, wait a minute, Joe cancels his Jordan visit after they cancel Joe. Oh, you showed him, buddy. But the fact that what our country has become, and that's why I put that umbrella question up there, is this the America you grew up in? I mean, nobody would have. I met and did a television show with Madeleine Albright, and there was a lot of, when she was Secretary of State, and not, whether good, bad, or indifferent, I don't think that part of it matters. But remember when she went to Korea and met Kim's father, and she would go to the Middle East. Now, she was, in the eyes of the Arab world, not only is she a woman, but she's Jewish. And Bill Clinton appointed her as Secretary of State. But she told me, I mean, she was delightful to talk to. And she said when she was in North Korea and she looked down and looked at, this is, he's not, real Daddy Kim was the original Kim, and then this was the other next Kim, and it was dear leader's father. And she said the heels on his shoes. Remember she told me that he had higher heels than she did, and she was little. And she said, looked over, Kim's got bigger lifts in his shoes than she did. But she went to the Middle East, and she would land, and they would offer respect. Now, this is obviously before Bush and Cheney got their hands on the wheel, but ever since, right? So what does that say? The America we grew up in. And I'll read a couple of things from the wall. Not the America I grew up in, not the Colorado, very good, not the Colorado I grew up in. Biden sounds so weak and pitiful. Not a leader. I would not let him, let me see, read this, run a neighborhood lemonade stand for 10 minutes. Brutal. But I'm drawn back to that. Why does he say it? Here he is in Israel, and who's the other team? Can you go the Nazis, the other team? Go right straight down the line. The other team, ISIS, the other team. I was stunned by. Can you tell me 303-696-1971? Get the party started. Lines are wide open. Good morning, everybody. 74 will be the high. It's 15 after the hour 6. I'm Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. For far for effect, right? Billy, I'm here. It is. The president says Gaza hospital blast appears to be done by the other team. One for the Gipper. Billy, punch it up, please.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
Okay. 303-696-1971. President had been scheduled to visit Jordan, and the Arab leaders called that off. And then the treatment, remember, our gallant allies, the Saudis, George Bush got them all out of the country following 9/11. The Saudi crown prince snubs, imagine this, snubbing the Secretary of State. Imagine the president of the United States being turned back. Man, oh man. All right, Mr. Smith, good morning. You're on a radio show.
Lord have mercy. Twice in 1 week, I get to speak to the great one. You're not Jackie Gleason, by the way.
He was the great one.
He was. We used to watch the Honeymooners. Did you ever watch Honeymooners?
Oh, sure.
Oh, it was. You know what? That era had so many good shows.
But a lot of that, I got to tell you something. Who was I talking to last night? But you take the comics of our childhood. I guarantee you Don Rickles would get arrested.
Oh, or Red Fox.
Oh, I love Red Fox.
My mom was a diehard Republican, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and she loved Red Fox. I said, Mom, there's a disconnect for me here.
Oh, yeah.
And she'd go, son, you don't understand. We grew up in the Depression. I said, Mother, you went to Ivy League school for girls. Yeah. You didn't grow up in the Depression. Well, anyway, listen, I want to get to Biden. What is he doing? Is this a photo op?
Well, I come back to is this the America you grew up in? Where an American Secretary of State would...
Guy's an idiot. Sorry.
But back in the day, again, the red carpets would be out, the military would be a standby, you get off the airplane, review the troops, go up and down, where you're from, son, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And the Saudi crown prince, this guy's, again, all the denial, and he there's no question he gave the green light to kill, what was that guy's name? Khashoggi. And
Khashoggi, yeah.
And here comes Anthony, right? Tony Blinken. Blinken,
or whatever his name is.
And he makes him wait, according to what's being reported. And first of all, he makes him wait hours. Now, it doesn't put hours in terms of how many, but hours plural. Blinken's U.S. Secretary of State, and he was on this trip to the Saudis, to persuade the Saudis to condemn the Hamas terror attacks. Well, the Saudis kept the Secretary of State waiting for hours for a meeting, and then they didn't show up. And I'm thinking, you jerk.
So the guy gets stiffed. How many times have you been stiffed in your life? Trust me.
Once, twice. But an astonishing snub. And the Secretary of State is, in definition, the United States of America, regardless of who it is, America's top diplomat.
Sure.
And
I agree.
So, in the wake of all of this, Blinken, but where do you get the whatever to do that?
Well, listen, Pete, it all comes back to the dollars, does it not? I believe it is so dollar driven. I believe even this. I've been listening to this kid. Well, never mind. I'm not going to go here. I want to ask you about. You may think I'm freaking nuts, and I'm nuts because I love 1984 and Winston Smith. But that the two famous sayings in there are war is peace and ignorance is strength.
Hate is love. Love is hate.
Hey, you're right. And I've kind of latched on to Jefferson Airplane and the song "When the Truth Is Known to Be Lies."
The truth is found to be lies.
The truth is found. Right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Pete, I'm a little dyslexic. I have a son with autism, with Asperger's,
But Grace Slick. I did an interview.
I love that song.
Oh,
I love Great Slick. And then this Joan Jett. But anyway, I'm all over the ballpark.
Let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
We spend time, Joan Jett and her, do you remember the name of her backup group for whatever that's worth?
No.
The Blackhearts. I love that name.
Yeah. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. That's right.
So I got a picture of my daughter and I and Joan Jett. Joan Jett was terrific to talk to. I interviewed Grace Slick once by phone, and she has a propensity to get pretty wacky. But when they said that, when the truth is found, I use that line a lot, when the truth is found to be lies, and you apply it to the Trump supporters and,
you apply it to anything. I mean, Pete, you grew up in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Albuquerque. Our parents came out of the Depression, okay? That left an indelible imprint on them. What were we told to do? Work
hard.
Work hard? Be respectful?
Yeah.
And give thanks. Now, you grew up Catholic. I grew up Presbyterian. Who cares? We were all in the same boat.
No,
now we're all different people.
Now,
you can't say shit to anything anymore.
Whoa, Mr. Smith.
Sorry,
I can't do that. I got to go. 303-696-1971. Those of you listening on the internet heard what Winston Smith said. It's not good. You can't do that. I'm cool with it. Podcasting is a whole different mongambo, but you can't do that, right? 303-696-1971. The umbrella question, because it relates to the treatment of the United States of America. Why has that ground invasion not begun? I mean, serious question. The Saudi crown prince snubs the Secretary of State. The Jordanians cancel Joe Biden. And then the whammo showstopper, which I think is the best, Joe talking about the other team. All right, Billy, I think listening to Billy Thorpe, it is 23 after the hour, 6 o'clock. Billy, we're going to break. Want to break? Billy says break. 303-696-1971, 710 KNUS. Morning, everybody, on a Wednesday, October the 18th, 2023, 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station, 74 the high, 78 Thursday, and 82 on Friday. I will not be doing the morning show Saturday at 9 o'clock. We got to fill in. I got some family things to do, and they're all good. It is a Wednesday morning, 303-696-1971. Lines are jammed, but one more time, right? This is Joe Biden, and he's talking about Gaza hospital. It appears as though it was done by the other team. One more time, Billy, if you would.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
The other team. All right. Well, stop. First caller in is Frank. Lines are jammed. Hey, man, good morning. Thanks for calling the show.
Hey, you bet. Good morning, Peter.
Morning.
Our beloved president via stolen election is.
Quit that. Stop that stolen election crap. What does
I'm just trying to get you fired up, Peter.
Well, I don't need your help.
So here's the deal.
All right.
So he's definitely catering to his base. Of course, he probably didn't even write any of that or didn't even think of it. But that's all he's done his entire career. So this is nothing new. When he first came to office 50 years ago, he catered to the Ku Klux Klan.
Stay focused, please, if you would, on why he says the other team.
Because he's catering to his base, like you said. He didn't even say, it's not even his words to start with.
I think they are his words. And I think that, there's this line of people that defend him and they say this, and I've heard it many times. Oh, it's just Joe being Joe. No, it isn't.
Oh, yeah. That's what it's been that way 50 years, though, is my point.
But come back to this.
He's always been Joe.
There's a universality to this. There are so many things that are happening, and they're about this country. And it isn't just Joe Biden. This goes back to Bush and Cheney and everything that's happened before that. And the Saudi crown prince, the Saudi crown prince snubs the U.S. Secretary of State by making him wait for hours for a meeting, then postponing it.
This would have never happened under Trump. So you say back to Bush, and just for the record, you're the one that convinced me that Bush Jr. was a total screw up. And I'm still ticked at him, but even though after 9/11, I think he did give a good speech.
That's a good line.
The thing is, if it hadn't been for what Bush Jr. did in Iraq specifically, we'd be in Fat City today.
If Saddam were still here, and he's a despicable human.
Those people were killing each other just fine, Peter. Why did we have to butt in?
Well, remember, Saddam is, if you're a fanatic, a zealot, whatever you want to call them, a jihadi, he killed them. There were never, George Bush talked about terrorist camps in Iraq. No, Saddam didn't have the WMD. Saddam was not involved. But Bush and Cheney, what they did, it was terrible.
And I did, and you made me understand that. And I didn't get it. I had friends who got it.
One more time. George Bush never cracked a book. Lyndon Johnson never cracked a book. Anybody that wrote the history of Afghanistan knew nobody beats these guys. The British Army couldn't beat them. The Soviets couldn't beat them. Why did George Bush think he could? And they're killing people who don't even know where the hell New York is.
Well, we did beat the Iraqis, but that was stupid. Why did we do it?
They overran Saddam's army.
Temporary.
Thank you. And I think
it's just a segment of time in history.
Okay.
That, we beat them for a few months or something, and now they're back doing what.
Do you think? One last question, jammed lines. Do you think that that's holding the Israelis up from their ground invasion? Is the lessons of George Bush?
Well, no, I don't think so. But here's what's holding it up. What's holding it up is Sleepy Joe's stolen election president.
Quit it. All right, talk to you later, man.
no,
Thanks. All right, Jim. Good morning. You're on a radio show, 710 KNUS. It's a Wednesday. Good morning, sir.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, man. Good morning.
Yeah, it's great talking to you. And this is such an issue. The situation. First of all, why did Hamas attack? And there's a number of reasons for that. But the reality is, for Hamas and for any type of insurgency or group like that, it's a win-win-win. They attacked. It's a horrific attack against innocent civilians. Israel took the bait and bombed them and counterattacked. And that's one of the victories for Hamas. Now suddenly they're the victims again. They're the victims in the Islamic world. You've covered this for a long time.
Absolutely.
All the editorials in the Islamic world, all the letters to the editor, opinion pieces, along with the news reporting, is condemning Israel and the poor Palestinians again. So Hamas automatically gains global sympathy.
You bet.
Israel is automatically depicted as a bad guy.
All right, so Jimmy, by the way, I need to
this
tell
undermines
people,
the Saudi-Israel negotiation.
this is a longtime friend of mine. When I met him, we were involved in something called the Committee for a Free Afghanistan when the Soviets are there. And Jim and I met then. So he's been politically active, and he's been a great friend, and he's been a great influence in my life. But come back to, let me bounce the questions off of you that I wrote down. How could or why would the Saudi crown prince snub the Secretary of State, made him wait for hours for a meeting that never happened, and postpones the meeting? Jimmy, why do you do that?
Part of it is Blinken has no stature with anybody in the world.
But he's a secretary.
He
represents.
He has very little, but it's beyond that. He does represent the United States.
There you go.
They could put Hostess Cupcake out there. It represents the United States, so that's part of it. But I think there's been a lot. The history. There's been a number of current issues between Saudi Arabia and the United States that have been in play.
But the Sauds are behind 9/11. It's provable.
The Saudis are very definitely behind 9/11, very much involved in it. And there's other factors on that one alone. Now, flipping that, you have this negotiation between Saudi Arabia and Israel that was in the works. Well, now, once you have the Hamas attack and there's the Palestinians and Israel's attacking the Palestinians, regardless of the cause, and the U.S. runs the same thing if they take the bait. When Israel or the United States attacks insurgents, terrorists, or an Islamic country, regardless of purpose or justification, they are depicted as the bad guys, unifying support, which will increase the number of insurgents, financial supporters, and overall supporters. And it also impedes leaders from those countries to negotiate with the United States or with Israel in any formal way.
Jimmy, I'm going to bounce two more off you. The Jordanians canceled the president of the United States. There was a summit coming. There's Jordan, Palestinians, and Egyptians. They cancel. I thought it was so childish. They cancel the president of the United States, and so he says, "Well, I cancel you." Oh, you showed them.
Well, yeah. I mean, but how? If the history going back to Transjordan. I mean, Jordan has had a mass of Palestinians there, so that's something that the leader of Jordan has to balance within the Palestinians, who automatically in the West Bank and those areas were protesting against the Israeli embassy. And so there's a lot of unrest from that, and the person has to be careful about what they do. Hamas is already trying to remove Abbas, with a Palestinian president, getting someone more radical in. And so this is a litmus test. This is very interesting. And here's one of the caveats. We cannot look at this from a Western mindset. We have to understand it.
Oh, sure, of course. I say that all the time.
Islamic and from a Palestinian mindset.
I agree.
On how they grew up. And this has been constant 24/7 through their lives.
Yep.
So
I know, I agree. And you try and tell people, Lao Tzu said it, and von Clausewitz said it. You better understand them. And I've said probably too many times that Lyndon Johnson really actually believed that Ho Chi Minh thought like he did. Not even close.
You're right. Yeah, no,
And-
not even close.
Not even close. But
And
Lyndon
we
Johnson.
could have negotiated with Ho. They came to
Many,
us.
yeah, sure.
Ho Chi Minh modeled a lot of that after he was a strong supporter and
Hmm.
Jefferson. Loved Jefferson. He changed his name 3 times. Ho Chi Minh was the
Yep.
third one when he came back to Vietnam from
Mhm.
France as a communist. But even though he was a communist, we could have worked with him and had a reasonable settlement after Dien Bien Phu. But we were funding the French for those last few years anyway in Vietnam,
Come back to one
along
more.
with the
Yeah,
Dutch.
yeah.
Over in New Zealand.
One more thing. Ho fights the Japanese. The French collaborate with the Axis. War's over, and they hand
Yeah.
the French back. One more. All right.
And an OSS officer saved Ho's life in World War
There's
II.
all kinds of
People
great
don't know that.
stories.
He
Come
was
back.
wounded, and it was an OSS
All right.
officer that took the moves to get him saved.
Jim, one more question. What did Joe Biden mean by the other team, and why did he say it?
Well, he's trying to placate, basically, and this is a possibility. In other words, Israel, the Hamas is claiming Israel hit the hospital. Israel claims that it was a rocket that misfired and it came from Hamas. The reality is, it could have been radicals from UAE or Saudi Arabia. It could have been radicals from Hamas. In other words, a hospital is a lightning rod of a target that no matter what else has been said or done will unify the Palestinians and the Arabs and the Islamic world against Israel. And there's no way out of that. And yet Biden wanted to, give a wink and a nod to the Israelis without deliberately, he thinks, offending the Arabs and the
I
Palestinians by
agree.
not calling them by name.
There's
So
some.
he soft pedaled it.
Do you think it was Joe being Joe, or do you think there was intent?
Well, the reality is, people say Joe being Joe.
Yeah.
Joe is an extremely crafty politician. It's in his DNA. Even as he becomes senile, he's there. It's who he is, and he's programmed for that.
Call me off air. Take care of yourself. Jim Emery, thank you, brother.
I will.
All right, man. All right, we have a line open. Billy, we need a pause here. Maybe yes, maybe no. Well, he says, why not? It is Wednesday morning, October the 18th, 2023, 303-696-1971. And I, like so many of us, looked at, especially at this part of my life, but I said, is this the America that you grew up in, ... question mark, and principally predicated on, so many different things, but in these last 48 hours, 72 hours, watching how the United States is now treated in the ME, and then watching Joe Biden, listening to Joe Biden say the Gaza hospital blast appears as though it's done by the other team. I'm thinking, what in the 5 times is he talking about the other team? Why not the ground invasion? It's been delayed again, or there's no intent now. Remember, I was doing a show a week on Saturday, the last show, CNN, Fox, everybody, and they're with the big armor units, and it's imminent, it's about to begin, and then it didn't. And then last but not least, the Jordanians canceling Joe Biden. 710 KNUS. It's going to be a beautiful day. Stay right here. Morning, everybody. I'm Peter Boyles in for George on a Wednesday morning, October 18th, 2023. 74 the high today. It is 6:47. It's a beautiful day. Lines are jammed. 303-696-1971. And again, talking about American presence and in the Middle East, American presence in the world. And again, all these bizarre treatments for American diplomats and, of course, the president of the POTUS, right? And this is Marcus. Marcus, you're on a radio show, man. Thank you.
Good morning, Peter.
Morning, sir.
So I figured the other team was the Denver Broncos, but just kidding.
Yeah.
Remember when we grew up, we were Patriots. We said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was thinking way back, when the Beach Boys had that song, Bomber-Ran, and then the song came out.
Bomber-Ran. Bomber-Ran. I remember
Yeah.
quite well. Bomber-Ran.
Bomber-Ran. And then it's kind of changed a little here through history. But what I find interesting is that the president is at everybody's border. It's Israeli border, Ukraine border, but not our border.
Well, that's well said. Sure, of course.
He's America's most interesting man. That's all I got to say.
You know, with respect, I this statement will, again, we can play it again to make people, people join shows and leave shows, but appears as though it was done by the other team. For real, Marcus, why does he say the other team?
I believe within his political party, because, if John Kennedy was around, that is not the same party.
Oh, no.
He would be considered conservative.
No. Growing up in a pro-union Democrat stronghold, I don't think I ever knew any Republicans. I'm not sure, but they were Harry Truman, FDR, Jack Kennedy Republicans.
Yeah,
and
FDR was no.
No, I mean really. I mean they, and one of the smart things when you watched it was when Ronald Reagan got all of those people, all of those Democrats to come over and vote for him.
And that was a change in history. That was amazing. Think about it, Peter.
And when Richard Nixon makes the deal with the Teamsters to get Jim, although it's a double cross, to get Jimmy Hoffa out of the joint, and the whole union movement swung over to the trickster, but without knowing really what was behind that. But I'm back reading all that kind of stuff about Nixon again, but they just double crossed everybody. It's like, come on.
Yeah, like you say, history repeats itself.
Oh, again and again and again and again. This is all repetitious. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
Take care,
you too, sir. Bye. Thank you. All right, we go to Mike. Hey, Mike, you're on a radio show. Thank you for calling. It's about 10 to 7.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the first caller's right. I mean, the big question is, what's Joe doing over there?
Yeah. Well,
but it's a campaign. It's a publicity stunt. It's to save his dying presidency. But for a few days.
Yeah, but in fairness, I want to be fair. American presidents, FDR goes to Yalta, they go to Tehran, and I mean he meets Churchill. They do those things. Trips, and Jack Kennedy going to meet Khrushchev. Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev. I mean, it's legit summits. I think the hard part of this, and I come back to you. The Jordanians, Palestinians, and Egyptians canceled the president of our United States. Is this the America, Peter, you grew up in?
No, it isn't. I mean, it just totally lost all respect for the presidency, the title, us, the U.S. In the first few days in his presidency, Biden had presidential historians in, and he said, "What can I do to be remembered?" And I think Michael Beschlaw was there.
Sure, I read that guy.
And he told him, become a wartime president. Do like FDR. Spend a lot of money and become a wartime president. You will be the he has visions
But
of
the
being
beauty,
the next FDR.
the beauty of FDR, and I'm an FDR fan, was he let all of the military operations be done by the military. I mean, he was obviously meet with George Marshall, and they would bring the area commanders in. He hated McCarthy. He hated McCarthy. McCarthy hated him, but in the back of his head, he knew that as crazy as the two of them become, he's smart enough to leave MacArthur alone. And the same thing with George Patton. There's all kinds of really interesting new conversations about who saves George Patton's rear end, because they knew he's like
After-
this. Yeah, after he slaps the kid and says the things about the Russians and everything, and they're going like, "Whoa, get him out of here!" And it's pretty much it's Eisenhower that saves.
After 9/11, after 9/11, Bush's popularity soared.
Oh,
And reportedly, Bill Clinton said, "Damn, why can't I have been him? Why couldn't I have had that happen during my presidency?" So that's what Biden has. That's why he wants this. And none of those guys went to Stalin or any of that in the middle of a war like this.
But
In the middle of the heart of the war.
Remember, Stalin didn't want to meet them either. But how about when Nixon goes to China? And I mean, it's still talked about. And
Wish he wouldn't have.
well, yeah, me and you, but Mao is totally demented, but he deals with Chou Enlai, and Chou Enlai is brilliant, and Nixon in China, but when if he went to see Mao, and it must have been, "How you doing, Mr. Chairman?" And Mao doesn't know where he is, and he's like, "Okay, fine." And that was that. There was no summit with Mao, but there was a summit with Chou Enlai, and man, I don't know.
And as far as that other team comment, remember, it's a flippancy. Remember, Obama said he referred to ISIS as the junior varsity team.
Mm-hmm.
He just because they're all equivalent to these
Sure.
people. They're all just they're just.
Oh, no, but also remember this: historically, ISIS is George Bush's Frankenstein. George Bush created ISIS by overthrowing Saddam. And all the modern historians and even Middle Eastern historians knew that if you remove Saddam fought the Iranians. The so-called War of the Cities that was apparently almost like the First World War in trenches.
Oh, he gassed them.
He
nerve gassed them.
But the British during occupation nerve gassed or mustard gassed, chlorine gassed the Kurds. And that's the part that everybody misses, is like, this isn't new. My old partner Bob used to have a great line, and there was somebody that we knew that will not be named, and Bob used to say, fill in the blank is going to go to the Middle East and teach them how to really fight dirty. And
I'd like to know who that is.
Believe me. But so one more time, when Joe says that, the other team, is that Joe being Joe? Is it done with intent, or what do you think he's saying?
I think he's playing to his base.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jordan has had or is having protests at the U.S. Embassy.
Oh, I know. I mean, the whole Middle East right now, Lebanon, there's huge demonstrations in Beirut. I got the music as always, Mike. Thank you. I see Bama on the line. Whoa, hang on, everybody. 74 the high. Stay here, 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll them out shelves. Your clutter transformation experts create affordable, Colorado-crafted, organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage, as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today. today. Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
Morning, everybody. It's a Wednesday, the 18th morning of October, 2023. Good old 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. Good to have you here. I'm Peter Boyles in for George. 74 will be the high, 78 Thursday, 82 on Friday, and Saturday, 73 degrees. I have a 9 to noon radio show on the weekends now. On Saturday, I will not be here this Saturday. And it's good stuff. It's good family stuff. So I got to take the morning off, and so all of that goes well. The umbrella question of the morning, and I've been, again, I think these things out and I work on worksheets for the show. Is this the America that you grew up in? Now, the reason I'm saying it or asking it is watching the Middle East, but watching how, well, everything that's happened. The Saudi crown prince jobs the American Secretary of State, makes him wait for hours for a meeting, and then postpones it. Mohammed bin Salman, everybody remembers him, reportedly kept Anthony, you call him Tony Blinken, waiting for hours for a meeting and then didn't show up. And it came as the Secretary of State tries to persuade, as they say, the Saudis to condemn Hamas. Arab countries have criticized Israel, and Saudi's ruler kept the secretary waiting, and actually waiting hours apparently for the meeting, and then didn't show up. It's astonishing. It's an astonishing snub. And the role of the Secretary of State is indeed the top U.S. diplomat. Next one, the cancellation. So here comes U.S. President Joe Biden cancels his planned trip to Jordan on Wednesday after Jordan canceled the summit. And what's really, and again, because we're going to talk more and listen to Joe, but Biden was expected to meet with the Arab leaders following this visit to Israel. And so Jordan cancels the summit. And it's Joe Biden, Egyptian and Palestinian leaders to discuss the situation in Gaza. They go, no, not so fast. So what does Joe do? He cancels his visit. You showed him. The one that is, and the other part is, why has the ground invasion again been not or been delayed? And I was working Saturday morning, and all the different media outlets, CNN, Fox, everybody's with the armored units, and the invasion is imminent. I watched, guys in helmets and flak jackets, and they're all saying, it's, all whisper voice, it's coming. And you can hear the tanks firing up in the background. Didn't happen. Why? And then last but not least, and Billy's got his finger on the trigger. This is drawn to the lightning this morning, and I figured it would when I saw it last night. Biden says the Gaza hospital blast, and that's appears as though it was done by the other team. I thought to myself, who the hell's the other team? But you listen to his voice quality. This goes back to, I watched him on 60 Minutes, and you watch his eyes and all this different stuff. And this guy, you know, and again, is this the America that you grew up in? That they would. I can't imagine telling Eisenhower or filling up Ronald Reagan, we're going to cancel your meeting. Man, and what a slap. And turning back the Secretary of State and canceling the president. And just now, so listen carefully, listen and listen close, as John Wayne said. Listen to Joe Biden, the other team. 303-696-1971. Billy, if you would.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things.
There's a lot of people out there that are not sure. The other team, all things aside, the other team, why does he say it now? Is it, when I was trying to make the possibilities of the other team, is that, as they always, there's this great line that said, let Joe be Joe. Okay. Is that just Joe being Joe? No one wrote, well, again, did someone write it for him to say? But the other team, it didn't add up. All right. There's two lines open, 303-696-1971. Bama, you're on the radio show, man. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. Glad to talk to you again this week.
Thank you.
Peter, I think it is time we change the name of this country. We just gonna borrow it from the French. The dom-tom, D-O-M-T-O-M, two different words. It means department, overseas department, and overseas territory. So America has become a dom-tom of Israel. Why do these American leaders, each one of them, bend over to the Zionists? This is why now, outside of America, people don't have no respect for this country.
This morning, the president of Colombia, do with this as you may, condemns Israel. The president of Colombia. Now, it's not making a lot of headlines, but because I get nothing else to do but read, and I'm thinking to yourself, when this begins, and I think I don't want to do that part of it, Bama, but I want to ask, I want to ask these questions. Why has the ground invasion not begun?
Well, they know once they get in, it's never going to end. You know how to begin it, but
exactly.
the end, you don't.
I think that calmer heads, but there's been no explanation. But I can't even imagine. I can't imagine, because the operation plans that I was able to read, the Israelis said we'll be in there minimum of 18 months. They can't afford that.
No way. There is no way that's going to happen. They know what's waiting on them.
Number two, the Jordanian, Palestinian, Egyptians cancel the president. Why?
Yeah, but just like what I was telling you, the credibility of this country, because of every government coming, they support Israel, eyes closed. It's unbelievable. You don't even discern what is the truth, whatever Israel does, we agree. This is a problem. Outside of America, they don't have no respect for this country. And it's sad. It is sad. You are the leader. You are the leader of the world. You have to play like such.
When Donald Trump came out and was critical of Netanyahu, and I thought, wow. And is that Donald Trump just being Donald Trump, or is there?
Trump it's just Trump. So you don't. You don't bank nothing. Trump tells to you. It's Trump. It doesn't have no value.
All right. So
now
you
remember during that Photoshop at the White House, I was telling you, Peter, this ain't nothing. This is just a Photoshop. You cannot have peace in the Middle East without the Palestinians.
Your phone's cracking up. I'll bounce one more.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, man. The Saudi crown prince snubbing the U.S. Secretary of State. makes them wait, and then postpones it. Yeah.
Absolutely. It still come back to that lack of respect now. They don't have no respect for the American administration. None. None. Peter, if I'm fighting Joe and you are on Joe's side, everything Joe does, you agree with it. What kind of credit do I give you? None.
You know, there's a theory called, and actually it comes from Israelis early on, 10 people in a room, one of them is required to say no. In other words, you know, you can, and it's a really interesting model. And I will know this someday, or that why they say no to the ground invasion. And you know, he's talking about George Bush never cracked a book on Afghanistan, and Lyndon Johnson never cracked a book on Southeast Asia. And after everybody tries to take the Afghans, including the brutality of the Soviets, who, but George Bush, by God, is going to get, no, please. But
no.
Do you think that somebody says to Netanyahu, you go in there, you're not getting out?
Nobody's going to tell him. Nobody's going to tell him. Netanyahu now, he is just trying to reestablish his image because he fails. He promised Israeli peace and protection right before he got elected, and bam, here we go. So now he's trying to reinstate his image, but it's not going to happen. He's done. He's done. He's going to do all kind of crazy thing now. Just
I don't think he's. In fairness, and your phone really cracked. I don't think he's capable. Thank you, man.
No.
Let's go to Don. Don, you're on a radio
Thank you,
show.
sir.
Hey, man. Good morning. Don, Bama, wrong button. I'm sorry. Try that one. Don, I apologize, man. You're on a radio show. It's old guy stuff. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, I hear you. I was about this. I told Billy I was going to talk about one thing, but Mama got me thinking about something else. I've always thought that there's a couple people on YouTube I listen to. One is a guy by the name of Preston. I think his name is Preston Stewart. He's a major in the reserves, and a couple other people who said that in the beginning Netanyahu wanted to go in hard in the Gaza, and the generals just say no, we can't do that.
Yep.
And about why they don't, about why he doesn't, why the Israelis haven't went in. There's a woman by the name of Caroline Glick.
I've seen these. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Caroline Glick. She had about a half hour. It was really depressing to listen to, but anyway, it was about a half-hour video on YouTube about why the Israeli army hasn't gone in, and basically to boil it down is the United States is keeping them from going in.
You know, again, it's all speculation, but last Saturday morning doing a gig, and I'm sitting there and we're switching, you know, Fox to CNN, and you probably remember the shots. Everybody's there. They got black battle helmets on. They got flak jackets, and they got that hushed voice. It's about to begin, and the army units are lined up. They're ready to go, and they don't. And now it's been Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Today's 5 days, and they haven't gone. And now you're giving more and more. And one of the things about, you know, going in and doing, you can't wait. And so now Hamas and people were pouring in. They, you know, and they're fortifying, and they're going deeper into tunnels, and they're going to make it hell when the Israelis come. Now,
they're knocking together quite a welcome for them if they go in. And I'm starting to wonder even if they're going to do it.
You're giving them time to prepare.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking to myself, but why? Why's the ground invasion been canceled since Friday?
Yeah, well, this woman pointed out just how dependent Israel is on the United States just for weaponry, like on their Iron Dome.
But
they don't have Israel doesn't have the ability to. They're shooting them off quicker than they can produce them in Israel, so they need to get them from the United States.
But the United States, Biden in the U.S. has been, and the war machine has been drained, selling whatever it is, bartering in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So my reading suggests, and I don't know it to be true, that we're running, but the war machine loves this stuff. I mean, a two-front war, and they're buying, and there's people in our country, in our government, that you can read who want to fire. They want to shoot Tomahawk missiles into Lebanon, and I'm thinking to myself, well, let's get this party started.
Yeah, we'll just have another generation of people hating you.
Now, let me bounce I think my significant questions. How or why did the Saudi crown prince snub the Secretary of State like that?
They haven't had respect for Biden probably for a couple of years. There's actually in Saudi Arabia there's actually a television show that was making fun of it. They've actually lost complete respect for these people. Matter of fact, you're talking to somebody who thinks this scheme they were hatching to had the Saudis sign a peace treaty with Israel, and that would have lasted.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to that. So, who's Joe mean? The other team?
He obviously means Hamas, but he can't say that.
No, but why does he say it?
This is Joe. I really started to wonder if he even knows the planet he's on.
No, I mean it's interesting choice of words. When I saw this last night, and I started yesterday afternoon putting my worksheet together, but Joe Biden, and again, Billy, well, I don't think we need to play it again. Maybe we do. But Biden said the Gaza hospital blast appears as though it were done by the other team. When I first saw that, I thought to myself, the other team, could you call ISIS the other team?
No.
Could you? No, I'm not making this up. Could you call, World War II, FDR says the other team. Not on your life.
Yeah, well, the world's hurling towards the abyss, and there's nobody at the controls. There's somebody at the controls, but I don't think that they know what it is.
I don't know how old you are. It's not my business, but is this the America that you grew up in?
No, you were. I listened to your show when you had Dr. Daddio, and that just brought back so many pleasant memories.
No, he's great.
No, this isn't the world I grew up in, and this isn't the Denver I grew up in.
And as Joseph Heller said, something happened.
Yeah.
Good call. Thanks, man. Be safe. Take your time. Thank you. All right. 303-696-1971. Since we opened the gate at 6, this is the first time all lines are open. It's been jammed up all morning. So if you caught a busy, call now 303-696-1971. Let's give them a little taste of Joe. Again, because this is so significant. If you listen to him, tag it out too. Why is he saying this? And he's just been snubbed, and his administration has been snubbed and kicked in the slats all over the Middle East. And he's in Israel, and he says this.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things.
A lot of people out there that aren't sure. Who? The other team. Choosing no sides in the fight. 303-696-1971. Who in the 5 times is the other team? And why would you say it? Now, we've talked about this, getting a lot of good stuff off the wall here this morning. Is this just Joe being Joe? This is what his defenders say. It's just Joe being Joe. Okay. Or he's in Israel. He's with not Netanyahu when he says that. And what do you think Netanyahu thinks of Joe? I mean, you see them sitting side by side in the big chairs. And what's going on in Netanyahu's mind? Same thing is true. How could you take the America I grew up in, and many of you as well, and imagine, I don't know, John Foster Dulles or any of those just big stick secretaries of state. So, and I'm not any big fan of John Foster Dulles, but just his presence. Foster Dulles wants to go to, of all places, Saudi Arabia. And the crown prince, and at the time I think it probably been Faisal, but they make John Foster Dulles wait for hours in the other room and then cancel. Never would have happened. Jack Kennedy wants to meet with Jordanians, Palestinians, and Egyptians. They cancel. No, it's just not going to happen. I don't know, you get down the list. Is this the America you grew up in? All right, let's read from the wall. There's nothing nefarious about the other team thing. It's just Biden being folksy. Ill-advised, question mark. Annoying, question mark. And there are some alternative motives or something nefarious to it. No, that's just silly. With respect, I think there's something to it. Joe didn't say that. Like, Joe, this is more of a Joe. This is the Joe being Joe. No. There's a large percentage of the elements of the Democratic Party in the United States of America. And there's a couple different things going on that are really anti-Israel. It's not a shock, right? And did he say that from whom? He said it for the fringe of the Democrat. They're not on, if they're in a fringe, the Democratic Party at home. But he also says it in Israel. And is he saying that to Saudi's crown prince? Is he saying it to whom? So lines are wide open, 303-696-1971. Number one, is this the America you grew up in? Why has there not been a ground invasion? Saudi crown prince snubs the Secretary of State, and the Jordanians cancel Joe Biden. 710 KNUS Denver Stock Station, 303-696-1971. Wednesday morning, everyone, October the 18th, 2023. I'm Peter Boyles. This is 710 KNUS Denver's Talk Station. 74 the high, 78 Thursday and Friday, 82 degrees. I normally have the Saturday morning show at 9. We have a good family thing we have to do, so I'm taking the morning off. We have so much to talk about this morning. There are many, many things coming in on the wall. Take a second and read some of them. Yes, as Middle East starts cutting oil production even more, we drain our oil reserves and make it harder for our oil companies to drill for oil in this country. I guess we might use fairy dust to powder the economy. Adversaries see our debt as unsustainable. And it's not I'm just paraphrasing, I'm just cutting into the middle. It's not the 80s I grew up in. Give us 20 years. No, you're right. This one, the other team. You're beating a dead horse. Biden does not speak well and just made another gaffe. You think? All right. How much equipment and weapons did Joe or Biden left being used against Israel? Joe has no idea where he is. He may be talking about a soccer or football game. He has no idea. But if you look at the weaponry in the video that's being dispersed of Hamas, they're not American weapons. I'm not an expert. I know probably 2% of identifying, but they're all pretty much Eastern Bloc, and they're AKs and that RPGs and stuff like that.
Yeah, Peter, I saw an online breakdown, and people had gone through this. Was two different groups had gone through the weaponry and just basically said, okay, what are we seeing? What are they carrying around? And you're right. It's absolutely old Eastern Bloc stuff. They said a lot of stuff out of Moscow, and a lot of stuff. They said the one thing they're going to have a problem with is that they have some weaponry that are different and or odd calibers, and also stuff that's going to be hard to get replacement parts for because they're not mass manufactured anymore. So that's where that's coming from.
Some of the things that people back hundreds of years ago called Chi-Com, and there's no M16s, there's no law rockets, there's none of that. At least I haven't seen it. So that's a hard one to hang on, Joe. Chamberlain started World War II by his stupidity. Churchill, Roosevelt, Truman ended World War II. History repeats itself. Biden will start World War III by his stupidity. Trump will end World War III. Let's see. I got to this one. How much equipment? Forget that. Joe being Joe has caused tremendous damage to our country. He is the worst president we've ever seen. It's no wonder the world doesn't take it seriously. No, the worst presidents in our lifetime, in my lifetime. First of all, it's a toss-up between Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, and I'm never sure that George W. Bush isn't the first, and the second worst president could be a combo, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon. So, no, Joe's Joe, but when you look at the damage done in the world by George W. Bush and the real president, Dick Cheney, and compare and contrast, that what those men did is one of the reasons why some of this is taking place. Let me see what else. How much we did that. There's nothing nefarious about the other team thing. It's just Biden being folksy. Have we played that cut yet? No, this is in the new hour. So Biden, it speaks for itself, but Biden says the Gaza hospital blast appears to be, or thought to be, done by the other team. This is significant. I don't know if it's just Joe, he says this with intent. Billy, if you would.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things.
Now, what we have just watched, and Billy's always the sharp eye, he's reading off of a note card. Is that just being folksy, or those the dead horse beaters? He's reading off of a note card, and saw the video now. Why does he say the other team? The next one, and again, this goes back to the umbrella question, is this the America you grew up in? The Saudi crown prince snubs the U.S. Secretary of State by making him wait hours for a meeting and then postpones it. Mohammed bin Salman, who is a very tricky, crafty, very smart, has outwitted these guys so many different times. And I don't think there's any question in anybody that spends any amount of time reading and listening the Saudi involvement in the 9/11 attacks. And I mean, it's despicable what they are into. But so Mohammed bin Salman, aka MS, they do what? MBS, I think, when they talk about him in shorthand. So here's Anthony, aka you call him Tony Blinken, keeps him waiting for hours for a meeting, and it didn't even show up. So as they said, when it came, he's Secretary of State. And that really truly means that he is America's lead diplomat, Secretary of State, and the Saudi ruler makes him wait for hours for a meeting and then doesn't show up. Joe Biden, everything's about Joe. So Joe Biden believed he was going to have this summit meeting with in Jordan with Jordanians and Egyptian and Palestinian leaders to discuss the situation and solution. So they go, no, not so fast. Joe was expected to meet with them today, and they canceled Joe. Joe then turns around and see how this is handled. Well, I cancel them. My man. Then that quote that we talked about done by the other team. And last, but he's reading off of a note card. So those of you who think it's Joe being folksy, no, it's not folksy to read it off a card. That folksy old Joe, you're beating a dead horse. The guy read it off of a card. And then why has the Gaza ground invasion been delayed? And remember last weekend, and all the national news guys were there in flak jackets and battle helmets and everything. And they're in hushed voices, and you could hear the tanks gunning in the back. And the invasion is imminent. And then it didn't happen. And I'm thinking to myself, why? How? So 303-696-1971. Good morning. The Israeli military said they told all the civilians in Gaza City to evacuate southwards, and, the bombardment, the coastal response. And now what? Why didn't they go? And in this last, well, if, some of the belief is Friday they were gearing up to go, we'll assume, but they've given these Hamas fighters plenty of time to replenish, to dig deeper, to build more spider holes, to build all kinds of strange things underneath. And, there's this thing called terrorist tourist, that angry young Arab men come and join up. We certainly know that in Afghanistan. And in fact, the perpetrator himself they called them the Arab Afghanis. And they were Arabs who went to fight the Soviet Union. And they were the Arab Afghanis. Osama was one of them. So I don't know. But why is Joe there? Which is an interesting question too. But Israel is pounding Gaza with airstrikes. And Hamas has launched barrages after barrage of rockets, knowing the militant group's unprecedented weekend assault is now turning into a slug. But why didn't the Israelis go? I mean, why did they not go? Is the U.S. involved in that decision? I mean, it seemed pretty crystal clear that the IDF counter invasion of Gaza would either start Friday or Saturday. And the IDF was given certain deadlines for Palestinians to evacuate Gaza. The deadlines expired, I think, on Friday afternoon. The drumbeat towards invasion had started early Sunday, and we were doing a radio show on Saturday. And it was getting louder and louder and louder. The Air Force, the Israeli Air Force, had already paved the way, several days of bombing, aka prep, and nothing. Nothing. Why? All the anticipation. All right, so go to the wall. How many IEDs have been planted in Gaza? Oh, please. No, they gave them time. Now, this is a very smart text in anticipation of the invasion. Absolutely. You can't wait. If you're going to go, you got to go. And they lined all the armor units up. They dropped. I mean, look at those pictures of Gaza. They look like Berlin in 1945. They took them apart. And yet there's a whole ideology. If you read Gap and you read those men, they said to you, and they said to me, and certainly to Lyndon Johnson, we don't have to win. We just don't have to lose. So go back in history and think, whether it's Ireland or wherever it is, we don't have to win. You can't beat our birth rate. We continue to escalate, and we are not going to lose. We don't have to win. We just can't lose, and we won't lose. But we don't have to win, and eventually you're gonna go home. And that was pretty much what it was. Eventually you're going to go home. All right, let's take the phones. Here we go. We have a line open. This is Mike. Hey, Mike, you're on the show, man. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Peter. Boy, I got in quick here. Hey, I don't, let's see, I'll reveal my sources first. I was reading last night a website, Conservative Treehouse. They have a Israeli journalist, commentator, former security official, Caroline Glick.
And we talked about her last hour.
Okay. Well, anyways, their take is that Blinken had the 7-hour meeting. They're trying to put pressure on the Israelis, basically to do some kind of humanitarian relief convoy, all that kind of stuff.
I've read. Yeah.
And they're linking it to supply of munitions that they need to go into Gaza and do a thorough cleansing. Bunker bombs, other munitions to take out the tunnels. So supposedly that's what's going on. I don't know for a fact.
Let me just stop you. That's a good call. Do you believe it? I mean, because I don't. I don't. Look, these guys.
We've been through this before. I don't believe a word of these people,
no.
You know, the other thing that the Conservative Treehouse was saying was that it's politics also. First of all, Biden insisted that the Israelis invite him over there for this meeting. And the talk is that the Democratic Party is trying to rebrand him, get him ready for the upcoming election.
Again, if I may, I don't think Joe's going to be on the ticket. I think they're going to find a way, and this is just my own belief. They first of all have to take Kamala and find her a gig because they can't use her. She'll get to be like president of Columbia University or some Ivy League school, and then that clears the way for whom. But Joe doesn't take questions at press conferences, and I mean he can't take the heat. He really legitimately can't do it.
No, and I think Billy pointed it out that he's reading from a card. He's over there meeting with Netanyahu, reading from cards. It just looks ridiculous.
Well,
we look pathetic as a nation. And there's a reason that, I don't know, I'll take you back a little bit, but as soon as Biden took office, Blinken met with the Chinese up in Anchorage, and they disrespected him immediately. They'd been in office maybe a couple months. They were lecturing Blinken about, don't tell us what to do. You got your own problems, basically.
That was about Taiwan, and they told him to go up a rope.
But that was the first sign. That was the first sign, at least in my mind, that nobody respects Biden and his administration.
Come back. How may I ask you? How old are you?
I am 70.
All right. Is this the America that you and I grew up in?
No.
No,
No, as far as respect in the world for the U.S., do you mean?
Or fear, one or the other.
No, this is totally contrary.
Can you imagine Jack Kennedy or fill in the blank having a summit with Jordanians, Palestinians, and Egyptians, and they turn him back? Come on.
No, it never happened.
No, on your best day.
And the Jordanians and the Egyptians, they do not want to take in Gazan
They've been through
refugees.
No, they've been through it.
They have.
And again, the Palestinians, the role the Palestinians play in the Middle East is they're the intelligentsia, the physicians. They really are, an interesting group of people. But if you recall the invasion of the first invasion of not first, but the invasion of Lebanon, when Arafat gets kicked out of Jordan. Now the Jordanians are snubbing. But then they arrive in Lebanon, and then the Israeli army comes in after, and then the Syrians come in after the Israelis.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It just the stones just keep falling. It's like dominoes, if you will. It's just one leads to another.
We've had a lot of reaction to me talking about Joe, and until Billy Thorpe shows me the video, he's reading off a card. So it's not Joe being folksy. It's not Joe being Joe. This was intentionally said. Last comment. I love your call. Why does Joe say the other team?
Well, he's got there's a large group of people, in my opinion, within the United States, within the Democratic Party, that strongly support the Palestinian cause. So he's got to navigate carefully. And the other team, he's always gaffing.
No, he's not. Look, he's reading a card. Somebody wrote that down. Well, that's not a gaffe.
The other team could be this other faction that he needs to navigate carefully around. He can't in public look like he's not supporting Israel.
But Billy's beating on my head to break.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Great call. Another great call of the morning. Stay here, 710 KNUS. Morning, everybody. It is a Wednesday. We have Jam Line 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles, 74 the high, 78 Thursday. As I mentioned, I usually do a 9 a.m. show on Saturday. We got a really good family event, so I will not. And back, I'm sure, doing fill-in stuff next week. So many important questions this morning, and there isn't any good or, I don't know, nothing seems to be clear. Jam lines, let's begin with Janice. Hey, Janice, thank you for waiting. You're on the show. Good morning.
Yes, I was listening to other news medium, and they were talking about how the Egyptians flooded the tunnels on their end of the Gaza Strip to clear out Hamas from that area. So couldn't the Egyptians be sitting on the border, causing all kinds of anxiety to the Hamas, waiting every day the invasion's going to come, and then figuring out how to get those tunnels flooded and eliminate all of that opposition from underground as much as possible.
I've not heard or seen that story. Remember the Egyptians. Hi, Billy. Well, I'm sorry. Hi, Janice. Morning, everybody. It is a Wednesday morning, October 18th. Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. I have a Saturday show at 9. We have a big family event, and it's good stuff. So I will miss the show. I think is Jim is Hunt in? I don't know. I shouldn't say because I'm not sure. It is Wednesday morning, everyone. Beautiful day coming. 74 will be the high. I don't understand. Well, I don't know the formatics of the new morning show, so that is all my fault. Is this the America you grew up in watching? The all these things that are taking place in the Middle East, and the Joe Biden Gaza hospital appears to be done by the other team. Now, I played that. We'll play it again, but it was it's just, and all the interesting wall of hate text that came in. Oh, it's just Joe. It's Joe being Joe. You're beating a dead horse. And then Billy looks at the video when Joe said it. He's reading off of a card. So 303-696-1971. But full lines are full. And I do owe this to Janice. Janice, I am sorry. That's my fault. And you got overrun, but you're kind enough to stay and be the first caller out of the box. Janice, you're back on the air.
Okay, that's great. So remember the Reichstag fire, the
Sure.
Gulf of Tonkin,
Sure.
Sink the Maine, all those things. Just how nice that is for the Hamas to say Israel did this. You know, if you look at it from a different point of view,
Sure.
that they can blame the Israelis for that. But the Israelis should be using robots or, like I said, to flood the tunnels, anything they could think of to find those tunnels, at least on their side, for access. Because when they had the last war, they pulled out because they were losing too many soldiers they invaded Gaza.
That is true.
So
why do you
it's a
think?
smart move.
Okay, so why has the ground war invasion been delayed all these days?
Well, that I can't address because, the Americans are in complete disarray. And I'm glad that they snubbed old Blinken because I don't have any respect for that man at all.
But again,
And-
it's not Blinken, although I understand what you're saying. It is the Secretary of State of the United States of America, top diplomat, whatever, jacket you want to put on him.
But that's right. Bring it to the American people that they voted for an administration that's totally incompetent.
But those things aside, it's the ability now for Jordanians, Palestinians, Egyptians to tell Joe Biden, we cancel you. Would have never happened.
It never happened. It never would have happened.
Is this the America that you grew up in, Janice?
Hell no. Hell no. It's
Yo,
so far
Janice.
away from the American I grew up in. It's just sickening.
You take care of yourself. Thank you. Billy, so folks who are just joining the show, initially when I saw this or heard it for the first time last night, putting the worksheet together, and Joe Biden says, and this is interesting, why does he call it the other team? Appears as though it was done by the other team. And we took a lot of heat on saying that, beating a dead horse and it's just Joe being Joe and it's folksy and all the Joe stuff. Turns out Billy Thorpe, sharp eye that he is, hey, Peter, come here. He's reading off a card. So Billy, do that drop because it's asking that question. Why does Joe say this? Billy, if you would.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
The people that are not sure are whom? As a millennial, I'll read a couple things. We'll go right back to the phones. As a millennial, many of my peers were coddled by their parents, taught that real communism has never been tried, and grew up in a time of peace and prosperity that had never before existed. My generation is mentally weak, has no respect for ourselves and our country. Maybe this will be a wake up. Back to the wall. Turn your TV on. Joe is speaking. It looks like he's going to collapse. You got to see him right now. He's on Fox Live, and look at his eyes. I mean, his eyes, what do they say? It's the eyes. Remember that great line? It's the eyes. Look at his eyes. All right, we go back to Jim. Jim, thanks. You waited. Good morning. You're on the show.
Is that me?
That is you.
Oh, Jim Bob.
My boy.
Yeah. Last time I saw you, you were over at Gunsmoke. Oh, God, I turned the damn TV on. Let me turn this thing on.
Okay. What? You're watching Joe. Here we go.
Yeah, I was watching Joe. I can't believe that. But anyway. Yeah. I got a little wrinkle in here.
Oof.
I think the Republicans are playing with the Democrats in the House because Uncle Joe can't throw some not so good money after bad to Israel if there's no Speaker of the House, because they have to have a proper session to actually give the money.
I mean, there's so many things happening at once. Your point's really well taken. It's coming at us in layers. But
yeah.
let me come back. When Joe said the other team, Jim, what do you make of that?
Well, like I say, he's not. He can't form words. He's probably about as bad as I am right now. But
Well,
anyway,
both of us, but he still reads it off of a card. Someone wrote down those terms, the other team.
well, I still think it's Barry Davis and his wife that are kind of running the show. But Barry, son of Frank Marshall.
Oh, I know who it is. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I even voted for the guy. Unbelievably, I used to vote for Democrats when I didn't like Republicans. Now I can't even think of voting for a Democrat.
This came in just a second ago from the wall. They're watching Joe on TV. Just because he's blank staring at the card doesn't really mean that he's actually reading it. Okay. I love that.
Yeah, and he got the squinty eyes. I don't know what the squinty eyes mean, but it means that he's not really there. I mean, if you want to make proper eye contact, he's not even making proper eye contact.
Wow. From the wall. I think the main reason Israel has not attacked is because they're trying to determine the location of the hostages. Also, Biden uses the term the other team. It's called placating the squad. That's very good.
I also got one other little thing. You know, I have nothing against Jews. My wife was a Jew. Now, this whole thing with Israel, I also blame the Western powers for not taking the refugees after World War II.
But they didn't take it was the Jewish refugees that Harry Truman, but it was the pressure on Harry Truman from the Zionist movement trying to create a situation that would force the British and then go to the UN. But there were two stories of boats full of people. One was what later becomes the Ship of Fools, where Jewish Germans trying to escape what they inevitably would be. They were turned away in this country, and they had to go back. And they were all murdered. And then the Exodus is a real story. Exodus, the ship, that's all the real stuff. And they were all trying to pressure the British, who are the cause of a lot of this.
Yeah, well, that goes even back to Balfour.
Before. But you're right. It's Balfour, it's Lawrence, it's that horrible moment.
Well, yeah, that and Lord Balfour sending
money.
That whole thing to the, I call the King of the Pharisees, the guy who ran the British banks back then.
They went to Rothschild for money. They were broke. And they go to this is way around the barn, but they go to Lord Rothschild, who is a Zionist. He's a friend and an underwriter of Theodore Herzl. And they say, here's the deal, it was a smart deal. It was very smart. And they said, you grant us this right. And again, this tragedy of history where Lawrence is telling all the all the Arabs, help us defeat the Ottomans and we'll give you your state. And so the British are dealing right off the bottom of the deck. It's always been debatable whether Lawrence knew they were doing it, but they did it. And that's the beginning of the great double cross. But history is loaded with double crosses. I'm going to take one more call. We got a break coming. Thank you. We go to Bill. Hey, Bill, you're on a radio show. It's Wednesday morning. Good morning.
Hey, Pete, good morning. Long time no talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I heard that teams thing, I said, man, that is the wrong word. This is not Family Feud, okay? It's not a game show.
That's right.
And it's the wrong word. But I'll tell you, the other thing that bothers me, though, Pete, is that people are all too ready to jump on Biden no matter what. He's always – they work backwards from the conclusion of we're going to use whatever it is to criticize Biden. And Biden gives enough ammunition for that, to be sure. His speech is obviously not strong like Reagan's was or something. But, on the other hand, Trump is descending into madness with his babble.
He's gone.
He's come out with lately?
He's gone.
Yeah,
he's
going to be taken away in a straitjacket at some point. He's losing it.
91 felony charges. His number one lawyer, my close personal friend, John Eastman, has been RICO'd in Atlanta, and 13 charges against him in California, lift his license. I mean, all that's coming home. I mean, everything you're watching now is coming home. But
He's obsessed with Obama. Everything becomes about Obama, and it's like, what are you nuts? It's crazy. And he gets a buy on that.
Oh, sure. Come on. But but this is why this destruction of talk radio has taken place, and there's just so many different issues taking place. But I don't think either one of these two will be on the ticket. I don't think Biden's going to be there, and I don't think Trump's going to be there. I just don't.
I'll tell you, people say, what's Biden doing about the hostages? Honestly, Pete, what can you do?
Well, you can't.
Look what is. Yeah, exactly. But they say like he's supposed to do something. Do you remember what happened to Beirut 40 years ago? 5 days from now will be the 40th anniversary of what, Pete? Do you remember?
Was you talking about the invasion?
241 Marines and sailors blown up.
They blew it up
by a Hezbollah under Ronald Reagan. And you know what was done? Expressing condolences and supporting a civil lawsuit against Iran.
Yeah, but stop right there, because I've seen that place where it happened. Ronald Reagan was brilliant in that moment. They had lost those young Marines. Those guys didn't have weapons. The guy was on the guard mount. He had a weapon, but the mag was empty. I mean, all this horrible stuff. But Reagan, and I thought it was a brilliant move. Let's get out of here. We've taken our
exactly. But if Biden did something similar, there'd be nothing but cut and run Joe. Blah blah blah.
But come back to this: when the Iranian embassy is taken over and the arrival of Ayatollah, they held those Americans. Jimmy Carter tried a ridiculous attempt. They used to call it, back when I talked to people about it, they called it the Jimmy Carter Desert Classic. When he did that ridiculous invasion. And so they're holding Americans hostage in Iran. And the only reason that they came home was when Ronald Reagan was sworn in. And if you look at Ayatollah looks at Jimmy Carter, calls him the Great Satan, all that kind of stuff. Ronald Reagan takes office, and the hostages are released at that moment. Now,
wasn't there something, Pete, where the Reagan team was negotiating with Iran before the election to delay the release for the purposes of Reagan getting elected? Didn't that come out?
I've read that, and also the same thing. Nixon did exactly that.
Know Nixon did the same thing.
We know that
Nixon did the same thing. Yep.
But wasn't it interesting that there's lots of stories about what happened. And this is back when Russia was the Soviet Union, and whomever they were in the streets started approaching the Soviet embassy, and they said, "Bring it." And they had found some of these people in alleys, and they'd been murdered, and it was like, okay, try it. And they left the Soviet embassy alone.
Yeah. I've heard those stories too. And the Soviets just out brutalized those guys, and I don't doubt that. But my point was that Biden's wrong no matter if he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Fox News is happy to sit there and damn him. Your buddy Danny, he's horrible on this. I'm sorry, no offense. But he wakes up every morning and says, "What can I blame Biden for today?"
But here we go. Here we go. Is this? And again, bad question with advance. Is this the America that you grew up in?
Oh, no, Pete, it's never the America any of us grew up in because it changes so fast. My mother just died in April. She was born in 31 under the Depression. It wasn't the America she grew up in, and it never was. It wasn't the America she grew up in 20 years after she was born.
But even when your mother was a young woman, the American Secretary of State, the American president, although they had never been treated like this. And I come back to watching this. Joe Biden, that Jordanian visit with the Palestinians and the Egyptians, they canceled the president of the United States, the Secretary of State, America's, I don't care if it's John Foster Dulles or Madeleine Albright or you go fill in the blank. You don't get treated like that. This is the United States of America.
Maybe he should have gone over and rubbed that glowing blue orb or something, then they would have.
No, but the point of it is this didn't. And by the way, this did not happen overnight. This isn't just because Joe Biden's president. This is the damage that Bush did and Cheney did, and all the sadnesses and horrible decisions. Chuck Bonnewell and I were talking yesterday, and I said, "What will Joe Biden do?" He said, "Whatever the decision will be, it'll be the worst one." I thought, "Yep. You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
By definition.
Good call.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. Be safe. All right. First time lines are open. 303-696-1971. It's going to be 74 for a high today. I'm Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. And I wrote this down last night. Is this the America you grew up in? And not talking about, culture or politics or anything, but just America in the world. And you're going to play, you keep it up. And it's going to get worse. And if you look at all the things the U.S. has been involved in, and these people, they not only disrespect you, they hate you. And you got to generate that hate. So when Joe says the other team, that's intentional. I don't think it was a slip of the tongue or Joe being Joe. And he's reading it from a card. Somebody wrote those words down for him to use. He's talking to the Democrats back here. That's who he's talking to. He's saying to the squad and the far left and probably even Kamala. He's saying the other team. He won't put a name on it. He won't put a jacket on it. Saudi Crown Prince gives the United States of America the finger. He snubs the Secretary of State, making him wait and then postpones it. This is the guy that I personally believe is the fine hand, the gray eminence in 9/11. There's actually, if anybody even doubts that the Saudis weren't behind 9/11 financially and planning and everything that goes with it, you're wrong, way wrong. And we know that, remember, the Bandar Bush, as they called him, Bandar Bush, lived in Aspen at this giant big home in Aspen. He had unbelievable amounts of money. He and his wife are directly involved in funding the first two terrorists to come here. They fly into San Diego and they get those make work jobs at the Saudi airline. You read through all of this. They found what to do? They found Bandar's cell phone number in there. There's a direct connection. Never talked about that in the 9/11 Commission, not one time. And we know that W loads all the Saudis up on the airplanes and gets them out of the country. Why? What were they? Why didn't he get them out? You will never. Well, of course, you can speculate, but will you ever know? Nah. So the Jordanians canceled Joe Biden, the Hashemite kingdom. And we now know that during the Iraq invasion, that the United States Air Force was allowed to fly in and fly out in combat missions out of where? Out of Jordan. The Hashemite kingdom. The Hashemites went real bad, real quick. Why? The ground invasion's been delayed. Why? Joe Biden gets the finger from Palestinians and Egyptians. Why? Saudi Crown Prince snubs the U.S. Secretary of State. Why? And then finally, my real favorite of the morning, the showstopper, the other team. I think it's your turn. 303-696-1971. William, we in good shape here? Pull the pin. 74 will be the high today. Lines are open. 303-696-1971. Why has the ground invasion been delayed? What's behind that? Your turn, 710 KNUS. Lines are jammed. Good morning, everybody. 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. Good morning. 74 the high today. It's a Wednesday, October the 18th, 2023. So many questions. We'll do the wall here real quick. W. Bush did not want to upset the Saudis because they were a main oil export to us. They're letting us mess the world around in their backyard. Biden has upset the Saudis. Iranian Ayatollah, the Russians, the Chinese, the French, and the Italians, and more. W. Bush was bad, but Biden is either a close second or overcoming W. Now, in my lifetime, W and this combo of Nixon and Johnson, you can't get part of that. Pete, tell me a point in U.S. history when a 75-year-old would wake up in the morning and say, "This is the America I grew up in." Well said. All right, so here we go, full lines. This is Sarah. Sarah, you're on a radio show. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you for taking my call. Good morning. And it is still a great day to be in America and to be an American. So let's put some positivity to this. I think we have a bigger problem inside our home in the U.S. I'm an immigrant. I've lived here 30 years. We hate each other more than we hate our enemies. That is not good. Divided, we will fall. I am so shocked at what's happening at Congress, the House. We cannot form a coalition leadership pact with Democrats who have officially written to say that they're in the Palestine, literally in the Palestine argument. And I'm not saying you can't support Palestine. What I'm saying is when people are coming to kill us, and be clear they want to kill us, this is not a drill, you don't start talking about, "I'm so sorry you haven't had the land you want." That is not the time. I am shocked because the people who got the House are acting in a way that we're going to now end up with a shared with whom for what? Shared power with whom for what? You have to actually see things as they are. The second thing is, Israel was divided. They had their own, whatever they were infighting about.
Agreed.
And that's how they got attacked. So we can't repeat offend. How can we not see that? I needed to sit down and say, we're Americans. Okay. And just go from there.
Let's exchange. There's this big argument now about Israeli intelligence failing, but no one talks about CIA and the rest of people failing on 9/11. So I hear these arguments and I'm thinking, well, I'm sure Netanyahu's in the hot seat right now, and whether or not he survives. But you're right. There was a great peace movement, if you would, inside of Israel. That's gone. That's gone now. There were, people protesting their own country's treatment of Palestinians. That's disappeared. Coming full circle to our government, you're right. I mean, any time in history where empires fall, and this is an empire that's failing, they fail from within. They don't fail from without. And your point's so well taken. We're grinding ourselves. And
can I also ask you a question?
Sure, of course.
The Saudis, I think, and I know people love Trump, but let's admit to some things. Hiring two inexperienced young people to be advisors was a mistake. And it's okay to say that. And it's not hate. His daughter and her husband were not experienced to advise him on the Middle East. A lot happened that was not taken well in that region. So however we look at this, let's at least say this should have gone differently. The 34, 35-year-olds had no experience, I'm not judging the intentions. Maybe they meant well.
No, listen, you're right. I mean, the flaws in the Trump cabinet or his outlook, and he trusted, and it's interesting, it's almost like in so many different worlds, he seemed to only trust the people of his blood. In other words, his children from two different women, and now, of course, his son, Brandon, but he's not part of that. But he seemed to only trust either the people that would 100% say yes to him or were his blood.
But Kushner is a kid. He's not even in the right?
Don Jr. I mean, but it didn't, again, Trump's theme from reading, I don't know, at this point, 10, 12 books, was loyalty. And if you weren't 100% loyal, then he got rid of you. And again, you must listen to the man in the room who says no. Whether it's, Cuba's missile crisis, whether this, that, the other thing, there has to be, and Israelis, they have a requirement. I've read it. I assume it's true, that somebody in 10 people in a room, one person is required to say no and make them rethink. And I come back now to why has the Gaza ground invasion been delayed? I think there are people in the room, the general staff has said, no, we can't do it. We can't spend 18 to 24 months inside of Gaza, losing our own guys in ambushes and attacks, bringing the world down on us.
True. And I think also we have to figure out when they attack our embassy, like they did in Beirut, this is not new. They did it in Yemen.
Of course.
There were no consequences after Yemen. There were no consequences when they did that.
What do you
when
do?
Our ambassadors were killed in Libya.
Yeah.
So what we have created is a system going back where we say, if you attack our embassy, we will talk to you. And I'm sorry, war is bad. It's dirty, but we have to sometimes fight. Like, I don't understand the kindness to people who are coming to kill you. That is not making sense to me at all.
Look, when the United States Embassy gets overrun in Tehran, Jimmy Carter, and he even attempted an invasion. And you know that the Israelis are extremely bright, and they read history and they look at it, unlike George Bush or unlike Lyndon Johnson or Richard Nixon. They, like no one ever, including the brutal Soviet Union, ever was able to quell Afghanistan. The British Army couldn't do it. I mean, again and again and again. George Bush or Uncle Dick says, we can do it. No, you can't. There's places you can't do what you want to do. And you got to believe, that there's in those rooms when, Netanyahu, and they move the armor units up and they're grinding them and bombing. But somebody or some people in that room said, no, don't do it. Take care.
Then
Love your call.
We have to look at that. Yeah.
Sir,
Thank you for taking it.
Real quick. I hear an accent. Where were you born?
I was actually born and raised in Kenya.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Now, and again, I'm going to ask a lousy question. How old are you?
Oh, I am a perfect mid-50s.
So the time of the Mau Mau's over before you're born.
Yes, but my family was involved in that.
Oh, very much so.
All right, now, and my grandmother, was highly involved, and she told me the stories.
Jumbo Kenyatta. Jomo
Kenyatta, yes.
Kenyatta. And let me ask you this, because I use that as an example. After the Second World War, Billy, we good on time? After the Second World War, when they called them colonial soldiers and they took Black Africans and sub-Saharan Africans and they put them in the British Army. They go off, they die, they fight, they do everything for the British Empire. Then they come back home and the British have their foot on their necks. And so,
and 400,000 went out, actually. About 400,000 joined the Second World War under the British. Yes, and we still have sort of that relationship. But the good news is the next generation is doing better. And that's, I think, how we have to look at it.
But let me ask you this. Let me once again ask you this. The Mau, the Mau Mau knew, they always say that in the time of the Mau, I've read so much of that, but they knew they did not have to win, but just not lose.
Exactly. Exactly.
So in any third world protracted national war of liberation, in Vietnam, they knew we don't have to win. Yeah. We just don't lose.
We'll wait them out. Yes, we did. And also they're willing to die more than the other side is willing to die.
I was telling my kids, we're talking, and in Ireland, the Easter Rebellion of 17, and they said, I die in a good cause to the British.
Yeah. And my people did the same. And my
Absolutely.
grandmother would tell me, we killed our own people if we
Yes.
thought they were going to be collaborators.
Yes.
Because we did have collaborators.
Oh.
And that's real. That's real on the ground. It's true.
In Ireland, they was called kneecapping. And they would shoot them in the, that's for real, shoot them in the knee so they'd limp. And you knew them. You knew
and
them.
you knew who, yep. And you knew, we took blood vows. My people took blood vows. So they were blood brothers. And if you didn't take the blood vows, then they'd know. They knew how to greet each other in a special way. So I'd know you're not part of the movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
but it's been done again and again and again and again. And who learns from it? Nobody.
They keep repeating and repeating. But I think the next generation, I don't know how old your kids are, but I think Generation Z sees the world a little differently because they've grown up with awareness and access to information that maybe our generation didn't.
I will say this. I'll say this, that most people don't read history. Most people think that this thing, that horribleness that began last week, or now almost 2 weeks, that it just began on that morning. No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
No. Remember, they bombed us too in Kenya. I'm not sure if you've mentioned that. The 98, the 97.
Yes.
And I was trying to explain to somebody, we didn't take land from them. Kenyans did not take any land, but the malls they attacked were owned by Jewish Israeli people. And I think they were angry about that. So this is a historical battle. And I think for Christians who look at biblical prophecy and see what is happening, it shouldn't shock them. But I think we have to figure out how to in our home. I think back to our country. I cannot hate a person who's here who worse than I hate the person who's coming to kill me. I think we have to figure out how to talk to each other. And I miss that. I think about the country I moved to 30 years ago. We spoke to each other.
I want to believe that, but I know differently. I know better. When the Kenyan movement for liberation, they wanted to talk to the British. British wouldn't talk to them. So the war, 1948, I think, is when the Mao step off. Till 1954, maybe late 55, Elizabeth gives it, and Jomo Kenyatta becomes the first president of Kenya. And
but Kenyatta also married a British woman.
Yeah, of course.
And learned their ways, right?
Yeah. Lived in Britain.
Yeah, and also married a woman there, had a child with him. But he said, you don't understand your enemy. You cannot know how to,
been saying
to
it
talk
all
to
along.
them.
Read Lao Tzu, read von Clausewitz, read history. Unless you know, and this is the sadness of the insanity of Nixon, Johnson, or George Bush, Cheney, whomever, you better know who the hell these people are. And you better know what they believe.
Yes, but they treat them like they're friends because they're invited to their palaces and they eat their caviar and they do their dances and they think they're friends. No.
Yeah, watch this, right? You take care of yourself. What do you do without naming it? What do you do for a living?
Oh, I'm retired now.
Oh, pretty nice.
I retired and
don't try that.
Got to.
Sarah, what did you do?
I actually taught higher education, and I also got to homeschool my children while I was evaluating a lot of programs that are government funded. So you could call me a consultant. I did a lot of data assessments, sort of return on investment on government funding.
Where were you educated? Where were you educated?
Oh, my undergraduate was actually in Kenya, and then I went to California for grad school and for my doctoral degree. So California would be my home state if I was to pick a home state, and then I moved here.
Are your relatives gone now? They all gone?
No, they're still in Kenya. My mom's gone, and my grandmother, which was a sad, but everyone is still there. I'm the only one here, but I have family here. So.
And your grandma was involved in liberation.
Oh, absolutely. And she lived to be a centurion. And I tell you, she was a woman of strength. I learned my wisdom from her because I spent 2 weeks with her every vacation.
What did she?
And she was an amazing woman.
What did she do when the British were running their show? What did she do for a living?
Oh, she was one of the people who cooked and provided pathways.
Yeah, sure.
She worked very closely, actually, with the first wife of Kenyatta, Wahoo, that they worked together.
What did
And,
what did she say about Kenyatta?
She actually was very, she said she understood his choices even when she disagreed with them, but because it was war. And I think that is the bigger issue. And she said he made some decisions that were not necessarily popular, but they were the right ones for that time. You know, the sort of that you had to be there. You had to be there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when people say you had to be there.
Yeah.
And there were some things she thought were not necessarily good, but overall, she said to me, you know, according to my grandmother, she said the issue of who was going to own land, one of the things people don't know is that they never allowed foreigners to buy land during his time. And during Kenyatta's time, and they said whoever owns the land owns the country.
That's right.
Another reason here, we are kind of tanking. I don't understand the whole, if you can invest $500,000 in the US, you're an American. We have now people here who own land and own property to the extent where we don't know where their allegiance lies. That's a sad thing for us, I think.
The Chinese are doing it overnight. The Chinese are buying. And, you know, I've read so much about the Chinese in Africa, and but I think the point of Kenyatta and Kenya, or the time of the Mao, as they say, the Mao, they learned from the IRA and watching Michael Collins and the IRA in Ireland, and they had this moment. It was called the Easter Rebellion, and everything goes with it. And they kept killing the British, and the British would kill them, but in time.
Yeah, the blood vows. There were blood vows.
Oh,
he took blood vows, and those vows meant I'll die before I give you up. And
I got a break. But Michael Collins, who is probably the father of modern terrorism, everybody learned from Lenin's great line: "The purpose of terror is terror." I'd like to meet you someday. You take care of yourself. You get called. I mean, that you lived through, your grandparents lived through that insanity. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like I'm reliving it here too when I look at the choices we are making.
Of course. No, I agree with you. I mean, my grandma, got out of there and was Ireland. But thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A wonderful call. All right, Billy, we got to do a turnaround. I apologize. 710 KNUS Wednesday morning. I'm Peter Boyles. 74 the high, 78 on Thursday. What now? 710 KNUS. Morning, everybody. Watching this new format that I don't understand yet. We got about a minute till the music hits, and then we do the updates, and then we swing back into some open lines again. 74 the high, 78 Thursday, and 82 on Friday. To the wall, and I thought about this one going back to it. Tell me the point in U.S. history where a 75-year-old would wake up in the morning and say, is this the American I grew up in? I'm not talking about internally or the rest of it. I'm talking about respect in the world. And yes, this is a bizarre moment or a change. Regardless, my childhood, really kind of begins when I start reading or watching Harry Truman all the way up to all of this. This would have not happened. This is my point to the texter. The Crown Prince gives the Secretary of State the finger. The Jordanians cancel the president. I mean, all this kind of stuff. That's not in my lifetime. All right. Well, folks on the phones, hang right there. We'll come right back to you. It is, whatever today is, Wednesday, October the 18th. Morning, everybody. In the final hour, it is a Wednesday morning, October the 18th. Been a great show. I'm Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler, and have to say these things. I normally would be hosting the 9 a.m. show on the weekends on Saturday morning. We have some good family stuff. I will be gone. So I don't know, Jeff, somebody's going to be here doing the show. With apologies, I'm not clear. Anyhow, 7:10 KNUS Wednesday morning. The Weather Center weather is wonderful. 74 the high today, 78 on Thursday, 82 on Friday. So many questions that are really basically, at this point, unanswerable. The lead, and I think perhaps most important, is the Gaza ground invasion has stopped. Why? We're talking about Joe Biden in the Gaza hospital, talking about the other team. Joe Biden gets canceled by Jordanians, Palestinians, and Egyptians, and a Saudi crown prince snubs the Secretary of the United States of America, making him wait for hours for a meeting before postponing it. This would have not happened. All right, we start with Brandon, who really waited a long time. Brandon, I appreciate it. Good morning. Thank you.
Right on, Peter. Good job filling in today, man.
Thanks,
Good
man.
show.
Thank
Good
you.
show, sir. The question is why? Why? So I'll put 5 points out there and tie them together. The first one is, here we go: hot sauce, soy sauce, tartar sauce. Okay, the sauce.
The sauce.
Okay,
Yeah.
the sauce. Now
The special sauce.
the special sauce.
Yeah.
Okay, now Now, point two is the harnessing power of history and culture, generations. Okay, harnessing is key there, because here's the thing. Right now, what's happening is a situation where things have come to a point, but it's not about this point in time. See, what's happening is people put a lot on their lifetime, their 100 years, let's say, but this stuff goes back, as you know, as you talk all the time, okay? And it gets harnessed. Here's the harnessing. It gets harnessed for the better and things get better, or it gets harnessed for the worse and things get worse.
But when,
okay?
if I may, and again, at this point, it's like repetitive, but do you believe there are places in the world where there is no tomorrow? It is simply yesterday repeating itself.
There you go.
All right. So having
That's
said
right.
that, so this is another, and the last really big blow was about 10 years ago. But is there a way that this ends? And my answer is no, not as that young woman said to me, not in my lifetime.
And here's the thing, Pete. That's a foreign issue. I'll bring up a domestic issue.
All right.
And it's the same thing. Repeat. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. Okay. In America, there's issues here with certain communities have an issue with police. And then when the time is right, when the moment's right, that gets harnessed, and we have movements such as BLM, et cetera, right? But it gets harnessed, okay? We have Martin Luther King. He harnessed things for the better in some regard, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if we look at worldwide, you have foreign things, the Israel situation, okay, the Putin situation. People or groups harness for the better or worse, and it's timeless.
I was trying to make the case to a friend and about the world after the Shoah, after the Holocaust. And the powers in Europe and this country looked at themselves and said, and things that, like you read Herzl and the beginning of the Zionist movement, they've been through the Dreyfus trials in France, the pogroms all over Eastern Europe inside of Russia and Poland. And they said, we need a place to go where they can't come and get us. And Rabin and all these different guys have said stuff, but going back to David Ben-Gurion, and they said, the next time they're looking for us, the next time they come for us, they will know where to look, and we will be there. And that was principally, the and this is the only time you can use anti-Semitism, because remember, Palestinians and Israelis are both Semites, and so when I listen to again goofball talk radio, and they say that Hamas is anti-Semitic, it can't be. They're Semites.
Correct.
But that's never brought up. That's never brought up that they're no, the Palestinians and Israelis are tied together on all these weird different levels. But in this country and in Europe, when the pogroms began with Dreyfus trial, all the horribleness exploiting, they were anti-Semites. It had nothing to do with, and Helen Blavatsky and all the early Toolies, the people that fed into Hitler, they talked about the blood taint. They talked about the responsibility of killing Jesus, if you can continue that. And it wasn't until, I forget what pope it was, maybe John, who said, you guys are off the hook. You're not responsible anymore. But all of this stuff.
Amazing. Huh?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. But it leads to, the First World War aside and all the other kinds of things, when the world looks at itself in shame. And in 1948, the UN votes for the creation. And a lot of that's out of what happened. And if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened, that big deal, but it happened.
Correct.
It happened.
There you go.
And it's here. No,
there you go. And Pete, here's the thing, that brings us back to the sauce, because here's the thing. No matter what, whether you have a 6-year-old in elementary today or a 60-year-old 5-star chef, they know about the sauce. And here's the thing, it passes down. I like hot sauce on my food. Some people like tartar sauce, soy sauce, where that is going to pass down. So when people have ideas and culture, it gets passed down, and someone's going to harness it and take action. It may be at this point in time or that point in time, but there are a lot of things that human beings build up, man. They build up inside.
I'll leave you with
There
this.
you go.
When in studying religion, 9 out of 10 times you are the religion of your parents.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, we're all that matters. I know it's the 21st century. We shouldn't be tied to all that, but I'm sorry. It's there.
Yeah.
It's there within human beings. It's there within human beings.
Take your time.
So,
Thanks, man. Be safe. All right. To the wall. Boyles. I never knew Palestinians and Jews are both Semites. Well, and then, right? No, they're Semitic people. There's a strain of Judaism that comes out of, Russia, Poland, but the people who were there, I think it's Sephardics, or maybe it's, with apologies, but Hebrews were always in the Middle East, and they're Semites. And in fact, under the Ottomans, the Ottoman Empire lasted about, a long time. And if you go and read about in Jerusalem or in Palestine, that Jews and Palestinians lived side by side. There wasn't a lot of conflict for a long time. And remember that thing, the idea of being of the book? So Torah, Quran, Old Testament, all share exactly the same things. They're the monolith, they're Abrahamic religions. The father of us all was Abraham. It's just kind of, Hey, Don, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I'm ready to talk. I heard on another talk show that there's a possibility that we as a country will turn on Israel, perhaps maybe side with the Palestinians. What is your take on that?
This morning, I thought it was interesting. It was announced that the president of Colombia, it's meaningful and meaningless, has now come out against the Israelis. The president of Colombia, Colombia, not the university. That will begin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I believe why the ground invasion's been delayed. I read battle plans that said 18 to 24 months, and that you can't do it. You can't. I mean, you can give it a lick, but you turn into whatever you turn into. Then you become the occupiers. So somebody, and I've read, don't know if it's true, that the general staff said no, and we'll see. Of course, of course, it's possible. Of course, what the strength of the Democratic Party, which may be explicable in why Joe said the other team. He's playing to
and the other team would be obviously Palestine, if I'm not.
No, it would be the
mistaken.
squad. It would be the Democratic Party at home. It would be college campuses. It would be all the places where at least Joe's got a little bit of stroke. And so he said, like he's reading off a card. They wanted to make sure that he wouldn't screw this up. And he said the other team.
And I mean, I'm thinking the other team is, like you said, not Palestine, but I think it will be the support of Palestine and perhaps maybe the destruction of Israel once again, or at least modern day Israel.
Certainly is a war aim of, wars have to have aims. George Bush had no aim. Lyndon Johnson had no aim. But FDR had an aim: defeat these guys. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and I mean the problem with wars, and I think it took me a while to understand what you were saying, and I'm now understanding it, is that we are going into war not to make peace.
Without
we're
an aim.
going into war. We're going into war to make money.
Well, the war machine. I've sort of boiled this down to using that term. The war machine. They love the Ukraine. They love this stuff because they just keep making it, and taxpayers pay for it, and they dump it out of the country on PL 480 stuff. And it's just like, It's great business for these guys. I mean, how much did it
But
cost?
somebody is making money off of it.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's the part
And
of
we're
it.
paying them.
Of course. I mean, they influence foreign policy.
Yeah.
That goes back to what now people call the deep state, and how much influence they had in Southeast Asia, how much influence they had. It's all this stuff really begins at the end of the Second World War, but I guess you could make a case for it being earlier. And then the Cold War begins, and boy, oh boy, Eisenhower's money. All this stuff, and then we come to what? Well, the wall comes down. Okay, round two, here we go again. I don't have answers anymore. I just got questions that
I don't have any answers, but I mean, last time I called you, I was talking about the Daddio interview, and I was trying to form opinions on Israel at the time. That's why I didn't go there with you last time.
Yeah, no, again, if one leads to one will lead to another, and the Jews who are remaining in Europe, and they just decimated that entire culture, the entire group. And so who's still standing? And the world looks and says, we have to do something. And
I think once again we're going to turn on the Jews, just like the New York Times did. But they won't admit that or fess up to it. All that stuff. I mean, from what I've heard, FDR tried to cover up the actions of Hitler at the time, and they didn't let us know.
It's always been debated, what did Churchill know about Auschwitz, or what was FDR? And part of the FDR stuff is he just didn't believe it. His mindset was nobody can be that way. Churchill, on the other hand, they asked, it was either Dachau or Bergen-Belsen, and they asked him to bomb it, and they thought, kill everybody in here, but it'll stop killing more people. And it was, I don't know, I forget, but perhaps Auschwitz, maybe Dachau or Belsen or someplace. Yeah. And he said, no, they didn't drop bombs on the death camps. You have killed everybody there, but they were going to die. The argument was they're going to die anyhow, but stop the killing now by bombing it. And Churchill didn't do it. And, Churchill's an interesting character when everybody kind of figures out that all Churchill is doing is trying to run operations to continue to keep the colonial empire of Great Britain. And by the time that light goes on, they're late in 44, and it's Stalin and Roosevelt from there on out. They kind of push Churchill aside, then Churchill loses an election. It's stuff. It's just stuff. I don't have an answer. Love your call. Thank you. 303-696-1971. The Wall. You asked the question, is it the same America that you grew up in? No. I look around and can't believe this nation's downfall. I believe in your saying all empires fail, but in the last few years, it's accelerated so much. It's so forced. It's almost like people in power want it to happen. They just want to get rich first and then watch it burn. That's very good. It's a great message. All empires fail. The United States of America becomes empire, 1945, replacing, because there's two powerful forces in the world, Soviets, the United States of America. Churchill's right when he talks about the Iron Curtain dropping, and now it begins. And that's what we grew up in. We grew up in that. It is 21 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock, but there's this term called the quickening, which I think is at work here, that comes faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And you read these media demonstrations that when Lincoln was killed, when Lincoln was assassinated, there were people like a day and a half later, there were American citizens that did not know Lincoln was dead. Jack Kennedy. There were people that did not know Jack Kennedy was dead till 2 or 3 hours later. And then when the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan took place with John Hinckley, everybody knew almost right away. And it's the quickening. information flows so many different places. Lies are told, people believe them. And, it's like the end of an era. It's no more, no less. Billy, it's Wednesday morning, 7:10 KNUS. I will not be here Saturday morning. No ground invasion. The Saudi crown prince snubs the Secretary of State. The Jordanians and Palestinians and Egyptians canceled Joe Biden. Joe says the other team. Why has the ground invasion been delayed? These are really good questions that I think all intrinsically are tied together. All right, we need to turn, and then we have some special people coming on. They'll join us, 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles, 74 the high today. Stay here. Morning, everybody. A Wednesday. Got some folks coming up with us in just a little bit. Wednesday morning, October 18th, 2023, 710 KNUS, 74 the high today, 78 Thursday, and 82 on Friday. I'm Peter Boyles, and it's been a really remarkable, intelligent, smart, calm morning. I think the audience is terrific. Thank you all. And somebody asked me, they challenged on this notion through history that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And it's absolutely true. And it depends on what your worldviews are, or where you are. In the United States of America, the men who made the revolution were young men. Again, the model holds. And they were flat out told, if King George were to catch them, they'd be hung. And they were in the mindset of the European royalty. They were seditionists. They were, turncoats. They were all these different, because they defied the empire, which is, again, the theme that will begin. But if, you read that book, McCullough's book on Adams, and Abigail Adams, they're going to have to flee. The British are coming. And actually, I don't know if they would have said the British, because it was certainly the Redcoats. But these guys, but it's not the first time. But if you go and you move through, this woman called this morning, brilliant call. She grew up in Kenya during the time of the Mau Mau, or in Algeria, to kick the French out of Algeria after they've been kicked out of Southeast Asia. Again, Michael Collins in Ireland. Michael Collins was a terrorist, but in Ireland, he's a freedom fighter. And if you read Michael Collins, what was said about Michael Collins in that time period of the IRA, what the British said about Michael Collins, he hid from them. No one ever knew until Michael Collins goes to accept they're going to leave. They don't even know what he looks like. And he's the big fella. I have a framed picture of Michael Collins. He changes Ireland to the Irish. Michael Collins, and we're talking about in the time frame, is a national hero. To the British, he's a terrorist. Which one? And so it's where you are and where you choose. Where this woman talked about the time of the Mau Mau in Kenya. To the British, who were trying to hold Kenya, he's a terrorist. And the Mau Mau, it's a pretty rough operation. But to the Black Africans, to the Kenyans, the true Kenyans, the guy's a hero. Jomo Kenyatta is a hero. And it goes on through Algeria, again and again and again. When Nasser seizes power and they get rid of Farouk, he is considered to be that guy, and he's not. But again, it depends on where you are and what you see and what you believe before you say what you say. So truly, throughout history, and it's really difficult sometimes for a lot of people to get their arms around, one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter. Let's take Dave real quick, and we got to pause, and we got special guests. Hey, Dave, thanks, man. We got about 2-3 minutes. We got Dave? I'm sorry. Brad, Billy's doing a call screening, and I'm doing take the guy on the air. So coming up, we had these folks with us when I got to do the show on Monday. Now we can do them. All right, let's go this. Hey, Dave, please can you take about 2 minutes? Thank you.
Yeah, I can. This is just terrible what happened in Israel. I think Israel just let their guard down.
Well, they got caught unawares, but so did this country on 9/11. So did this country on Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, 41. They had to know they were coming, and they didn't catch them. Yeah.
Yeah, my own theory is I think Netanyahu was trying to soften up his image, maybe.
Netanyahu is in trouble one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I think he's in trouble now too. But
Oh yeah, I don't think he lasts that long.
well, here's the interesting one. There was a peace, well, again, I've read a peace movement in Israel about the Palestinians. That's gone.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Right. Oh yeah.
It's a
huge game changer.
Real quick,
I think he's looking for the next election, and I think he wants a bigger majority.
I don't think he's going to be there.
I don't think. Those elections happen so fast there anyway. It's not like our.
Oh no, but that's a parliament. Oh, I thought you were talking about this country. I thought you were talking about Joe Biden. No.
Yeah, no. In Israel, you sometimes have one election a year. It's crazy.
The government dissolves, and
yeah, exactly.
the British system's the same way. That the government will dissolve and then reform. They form coalitions, and the labor movement and this and that. And I think that's all out the window right now in Israel. We will, we will learn, but the Israelis, this whole idea intelligence fails, and all the American media. So where were you on 9/11?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 41. Did intelligence fail? Well, maybe. Who knows? But still got caught with her pants down.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been a great few weeks, 2 weeks for talk radio. Just not
at
just
times,
not KNUS, but all of them.
At times, yes. But
yeah, no, really has been. Everyone should be proud.
You're
I
kind.
can't believe people say don't listen to talk radio. Don't kid yourselves.
Well, talk radio has also been self-destructive, but.
Oh yeah, good and the bad.
Yeah. You take care. Thank you. All right, let's do it. Let's Billy. Let's set this up. So we'll do a quick turnaround. Billy Thorpe's in charge, large and in charge. 74 the high. Stay here. Wednesday morning, everyone, the 18th morning of October 2023. Good old 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. Billy Thorpe and Peter Boyles together again. I don't know who's working the rest of the week, but I will not be there Saturday. Jimmy's going to do it. Okay. Jimmy's Hangenberger coming up tomorrow morning. Saturday, I won't be here for the Saturday morning show at 9. Got a good family event to go to. 74, 78 tomorrow, and Friday, 82. I did the radio show for George on Monday, and I mistimed what I wanted to do. And we still got a lot of response on just a few minutes that these folks were on. Please say good morning and welcome back to the show. First of all, the toughest young woman I've ever known in my life is my daughter, Shannon. She's on the show, and Dr. McWhorter, who has been a great friend of my daughter, and there's this new, everything that's going on with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Shan, we hadn't had a chance to talk because I was out last night, but you have taken is it your second therapy session? Third?
Yesterday was my third. Today's my fourth. And I've already noticed big differences and can see them. And I'm so excited. I mean, by the end of the month, I think I should have 20 sessions under my belt. And I don't even think you're going to recognize me. I'm going to look so young.
You're fighting hard. Dr. Jeff, good morning, man. Thanks for coming back up.
Hey, good morning, Peter. How are you doing?
I'm actually very good. Now, a longtime friend of mine, and we all share, Mel. And so Mel invites me to breakfast, and he starts to tell me, and he's been through a lot physically, and what this hyperbaric treatment's done, the oxygen therapy. So I'm going to try Thursday, doctor. I got to get, because I'm claustrophobic. So I got to get my shoulders up for this, but
well, it's a lot bigger than it sounds like. So, as somebody who's pushing 6'3", as I always point out to patients, I can sit up in that chamber without my head even touching, if that gives you a little bit of a idea of the interior dimensions of it. So even with a touch of claustrophobia, most patients find it to be a good fit for them.
Mel said that Peter said you can go in there and read. And Shannon, what do you do during the session, Shannon? What do you do?
Well, I was told I could take my phone in there, so I've been watching Netflix and texting people. But, if I can echo what the doctor said, because Dad, as you know, I'm claustrophobic as well. And I've had MRIs, and this is a piece of cake compared to an MRI. Like the doctor said, once it's completely inflated, he can sit straight up inside of it, and it's really roomy and super comfortable. I just think that you just need to try it and not get worried about the claustrophobic.
No, I'm going with you Thursday. So, doctor, what is the point of the treatment? It's called HBOT. What's the point of it?
Well, that acronym stands for hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is a bit of a mouthful. But if we think about us as aerobic organisms needing oxygen to survive, better oxygenation we have circulating through our blood flow, the better cellular function we have as a whole, whether that's you're aiming to have an anti-aging benefit, as we see from research conducted years ago in the Tel Aviv study about telomere lengthening, to reducing lactic acid buildup after an intense workout or a weekend warrior kind of activity, to better energy throughout the day, better sleep, less inflammation. It has a slew of benefits and a wide array of diagnoses that it is applicable to. Everything from the patient that wants to live their best life and increase longevity from a wellness standpoint, to a post-surgical recovery patient for things like cosmetic or orthopedic procedures. But, and then Mel's case, Mel was an interesting case for the simple fact that he had suffered a stroke. He came in and saw me briefly and started hyperbaric with a significant challenge in his gait and his walking function. And I think by about treatment 5, it was a night and day difference for him.
He swears
so
by
much
it.
so
Swears by it.
he still uses it, and to the point where about 6 months ago he came to me and asked me to tell him one to put in his house, which I also do. So,
well, it's really, and so I'm before we begin, I started reading this stuff, and Grand Prix drivers and European athletes and people who are really, it's like physicality is their life. They're sleeping in these things. They have them in their houses. They have them in their homes.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm an old guy. And one of the things that was left over from my fun summer is I still have fluid in my lungs. This is not a giveaway, but I take water pills and all that kind of stuff. So I talked to somebody. They said, well, yeah, because the more oxygen, and take a second, and I'm going to start with Shannon. Could you feel it? Could you feel it, honey, when it started to intense the atmospheres?
I mean, it's kind of like when you're on an airplane and your ears pop as they pressurize the chamber. But then once I was done and I got out, I felt completely different in a really great way. Like I felt like more alert, I guess, and more awake. I think it's because of all the oxygen that's coursing through my cells in my body. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge difference in how I felt.
Doctor, so when people begin to receive or boosting oxygen delivered or delivery, then what happens?
Yeah, so I mean, I was patient zero before I started utilizing it in clinic, and from my own experience and a vast number of patients that I've worked with in the last 8-9 years here with hyperbaric, it has a generalized effect of increasing your energy throughout the day. Typically, patients are experiencing better quality of sleep at night. The big one that a lot of patients are coming to me for is everything from reducing inflammation to how it pertains to acceleration of a recovery process, whether that's from a minor sprain injury to, like I said, surgical repair and post-surgery recovery. But most patients get out feeling pretty rejuvenated, rested, and higher energy levels.
And yes, someone said, yeah, that's the one Michael Jackson had, like X amount of years ago, and the technology's changed. Even what the beds look like has infinitely changed. But again, I'm getting some online stuff. The one I know is on South Madison, and you have how many locations? Somebody wants to know. Do you have?
Well, I have my main clinic down in Centennial is a little different. It's more of a full-blown neurological and chiropractic center. But the hyperbaric spa in Cherry Creek is the newest one that offers our membership. And then we do have an HBOT spa in Centennial attached to my office, but that's running as more of a clinical aspect versus a med spa. So eventually it'll probably change over, but for the current time, that's where most of my concussion or TBI cases end up seeing me because of the vast array of other services I provide out of this location in Centennial.
So 75 South, the phone number, I know it now, is 303-353-9623, 353-9623. You got this great offer. What do you get for $100?
So for $100 throughout the remainder of the month of October and potentially into some of November, you get up to 5 sessions that you can use within a week of purchase.
Yeah.
So
$100. Ooh. I'm going to read you from the wall. Peter, just came across. My cousin had a terrible sore on her ankle that would not heal. After several treatments in hyperbaric chamber, it was completely healed. That's
pretty typical. Yeah, wound healing. Diabetics see a great response to this as they constantly face issues with wound healing. And again, back to things like if you have a infection that's preventing wound closure, or you've had surgery where we're having some difficulty getting to a full recovery phase, hyperbaric becomes one of the best modalities on the market in my clinical opinion.
Shannon, add whatever you want to add to that to top it off.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead.
Absolutely, because I am immune suppressed. And so a lot of my wounds from the 22 surgeries I've had since 2006 are slow to heal. And so I've noticed in the 3 sessions I've done rapid healing. Like I said, my skin looks years younger. And I'm just super excited. I didn't think I was going to be able to move the needle on my healing any faster. And ever since I started going and doing these hyperbaric chamber sessions, after 3 of them, I've seen a huge difference. So I'm excited to keep going, and especially knowing that you can get 5 sessions for $100.
There you go. If
awesome.
you guys, again, the number, and I'm going to go Thursday. I'm going to, modestly, he
You have
says,
to go.
yeah, I know.
I'm going to hold you to it.
I know. Oh, I'm going with you. It's just.
You're going in there.
303-353-9623. And Dr. Jeff, Shannon, Dr. Jeff's the man. And
he's the best.
Yeah, 303-353-9623. And you get, is it 5 for $100, doctor, right now to kick it off?
Yeah, it gets you a little taste of what hyperbaric does for you. That's our promotion we're running. And then we offer our membership at the best rate in the country, which you can have a test of how it works and make a educated decision if using it in longevity is right for you.
It's, again, 75 South Madison. And I'm going to give it, I won't be back on the air for a while because my daughter and I are actually going to a very special event, but I'm going to try Thursday. I'll come with, what time? Come with Shannon. We'll give it a lick. And are you back today, Shannon, there, or you got another?
Yep. I'm going again this afternoon and tomorrow.
Doctor, anyhow, it is good. Jeff, I'll talk to you. Shannon, I'll see you a little bit. But thank you, guys. And again, somebody said, what's the number again? Okay, it's 303-353-9623. And I mean, for old guys to young guys to everybody, give it a lick because, again, I just think it has an opportunity to do all kinds of cool stuff for a lot of people. Doctor, 100%. I'll talk to you. Doctor, I'll talk to you. Shannon, I'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, darling. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you. Billy, do we need one more break? No, we're good to go. All right. We're coming up on time. We got 2 minutes. It's 9:54. Thank you. Thank you for the last 2 shows, the Monday show and the Wednesday show, today's show. And it's difficult. I mean, it's in talk radio in America today is in, I think, enormous trouble. And it's frightening what we've watched happen and everything that's now happened. But this question I asked initially is this the America you grew up in? Of course it can't be, but I'm talking about its image and respect, given what the Crown Prince did. Watch the Jordanians cancel Joe Biden's goofball, and he read it off a card saying, the other team. That stuff is just not straight. And I don't care if it was FDR or Richard Nixon or Ronald Reagan. American, and the Secretary of State is the chief diplomat of our country. He wouldn't have been treated like that. Imagine what that Saudi prince did. Makes him waiting in the lobby, right? Snubs him, making wait for hours for a meeting, then postpones the meeting. I got to tell you something, man. They'd never done it to Reagan. They would have never done it to JFK, never done it to, even with Nixon, of all people. So someone's asking me, how does the doctor spell his last name? That's a good question. Let me double check. It's MC, then capital H. Do it again, Peter. MC, capital W, HOTER. That's how he does it. So somebody's asking me that. Billy, thank you, man. It's been good fun to be back for the last couple of days, especially in this moment where at least there has to be some intelligence. And I think it's lacking many, many places, but the sadness and the horror will always continue. That great line, there is no tomorrow. It's simply yesterday repeating itself. Thank you all. And I'll see you, 5 or 6. I'm going to try this thing Thursday. Billy Thorpe, thank you. Hey, Brauchler, thank you. And Jimmy's here tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody. 710 KNUS.